Ever come into a windfall only to find it's more of a headache than a blessing? I recently inherited a substantial sum of money, something I never expected. At first, I thought this would solve all my problems, but instead I'm caught in a whirlwind of financial jargon and conflicting advice. How do I make sure this money doesn't just slip through my fingers, leaving me back at square one? I'm starting to realize that wealth can be as daunting as it is exciting, and I'm not sure where to even begin. I'm a 32-year-old graphic designer living in a bustling city, where I've been juggling rent, bills, and student loans like everyone else in my age group. Life was a constant balancing act, but it was familiar and somewhat comfortable. Then, out of the blue, I received a call from a lawyer. My great-aunt, whom I hadn't seen in years and honestly knew very little about, had passed away. In her will, she left me a significant amount of money. To say I was surprised would be an understatement. Initially, my thoughts were filled with relief and excitement. Here was a chance to pay off debts, perhaps even buy my own place, and escape the relentless cycle of renting. But soon, the elation morphed into a heavy, anxious feeling. This was not just a temporary relief, it was a responsibility I wasn't prepared for. Financial terms and investment strategies started cropping up in conversations with friends and family, all eager to offer their 2 cents. Suddenly, everyone seemed to have an opinion on what I should do. The idea of investing the money wisely loomed over me like a storm cloud. I didn't want to squander this unexpected fortune, but every option felt like a potential trapdoor. My anxiety was compounded by the fear of making the wrong choice and facing regret down the line. My financial literacy was average at best, and the thought of jumping into investments without a safety net was terrifying. It's like being handed the keys to a ship when you've barely set foot in a boat before. I needed to make informed decisions, but where to start? As I wrestled with the enormity of my inheritance, I decided to take a cautious approach. I began by setting up meetings with financial advisors, hoping they could provide some clarity. My first appointment was with a firm recommended by a friend. Walking into the sleek office, I was hopeful. However, as the advisor rattled off terms like diversification, asset allocation, and mutual funds, I felt increasingly out of my depth. I left the meeting more confused than when I arrived, clutching a folder full of brochures that seemed to speak a language I didn't understand. Just as I was trying to process this overload of information, life threw its first curveball. My company announced a round of layoffs due to budget cuts. Although I was lucky enough to keep my job, the uncertainty of it all compounded my stress. The once comforting thought of using my inheritance as a safety net now felt more like a necessary shield against potential unemployment. The idea of investing a large portion of it suddenly seemed far riskier. This unexpected job scare made me reconsider my priorities. Should I focus on securing immediate stability by paying off my student loans and other debts first? Or should I heed the advice to invest for long-term growth? Each path felt fraught with risk and potential regret. Meanwhile, my inbox was flooded with emails from banks offering investment opportunities, and friends continued to share their can't-miss tips at every gathering. The pressure was immense, and my mind was a tangled web of conflicting advice and looming deadlines. To make matters worse, a family member reached out asking for a loan to cover their own financial troubles. This request added a layer of emotional complexity I hadn't anticipated. Saying no felt heartless, yet saying yes could open a Pandora's box of expectations and potential family tensions. My great-aunt's gift was becoming a source of unexpected stress, threatening to strain relationships that were important to me. Each day, the weight of my decision felt heavier. I was caught in a whirlwind of doubt and fear, second-guessing every piece of advice I received. My sleep suffered, and I found myself waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, as the responsibility of managing this money loomed larger in the darkness. My once clear path seemed shrouded in uncertainty, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of making an irrevocable mistake. Determined not to let this opportunity slip through my fingers, I began taking active steps to regain control. My first move was to create a comprehensive budget. I meticulously listed all my expenses, from rent to monthly subscriptions, and projected how the inheritance could potentially cover these costs while still leaving room for investments. This exercise gave me a momentary sense of empowerment as I started to visualize a plan that balanced immediate needs with future security. Realizing I needed more than just my own perspective, I joined a financial literacy workshop offered by a local community center. The sessions were insightful, breaking down complex concepts into manageable pieces. I learned about the basics of investing and the importance of having a diversified portfolio. The workshop also introduced me to a network of individuals who were in similar situations, each grappling with their own financial dilemmas. Sharing experiences and strategies with them provided a sense of camaraderie and relief. Despite these efforts, the path to resolution was anything but smooth. My attempts to find a reliable financial advisor who could guide me without overwhelming me with technical jargon proved challenging. Many advisors seemed more interested in their commissions than my financial well-being. I found myself skeptical of their motives, and this distrust made it difficult to commit to any proposed plans. Then came the second curveball. My landlord informed me of a significant rent increase due to rising property taxes. This unexpected hike threw my careful budgeting into disarray, bringing back the urgency of finding a stable and sustainable financial footing. It felt like the universe was conspiring against my attempts to create stability. Faced with this new setback, I reconsidered my living situation. Perhaps buying a small apartment could be a better investment than continuing to rent at such inflated rates. However, diving into the real estate market was daunting, and the thought of tying up a large portion of my inheritance in property made me uneasy. Throughout these trials, my emotions swung from determination to frustration. Every decision felt like a gamble, and the fear of making a costly mistake weighed heavily on me. I realized that while the inheritance was a blessing, it was also a test of my ability to navigate complex adult responsibilities, a challenge I was determined to meet head-on despite the mounting obstacles. The weight of my inheritance and the decisions surrounding it seeped into every aspect of my life, altering my emotional landscape in profound ways. The stress of making the right choices felt like a constant hum in the background, never allowing me to fully relax or focus on anything else. At work, I found myself distracted, my productivity slipping as my mind wandered to financial spreadsheets and the latest real estate listings. Even in meetings, I'd catch myself daydreaming about potential outcomes, both good and bad, and it wasn't long before colleagues started noticing my lack of engagement. Socially, the inheritance created an unexpected rift. Conversations with friends often turned to money, a topic I tried to avoid but found unavoidable. It seemed like everyone had an opinion on how I should handle my newfound wealth, which only added to my confusion and frustration. I began to feel isolated, pulling back from social gatherings to avoid the inevitable discussions and unsolicited advice. This distance made me feel lonely, as if I were living in a different world from those around me. At home, my mood swings and stress were taking a toll on my relationship with my partner. Our discussions, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, now revolved around financial decisions and future plans that felt more like burdens than opportunities. The tension was palpable, and I could sense a growing distance between us, exacerbated by my frequent late-night bouts of insomnia. As I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the enormity of my situation felt suffocating. Internally, I battled feelings of inadequacy and guilt. Here I was, handed an opportunity that many could only dream of, yet I felt paralyzed by it. The fear of squandering my great-aunt's legacy weighed heavily on me, as did the pressure to make her proud. It was as if her silent expectations loomed over me, adding another layer of stress to an already overwhelming situation. The culmination of these pressures left me feeling trapped in a cycle of indecision and self-doubt. The inheritance, once a beacon of hope, had become a constant source of anxiety and emotional turmoil. I realized that this wasn't just about money. It was a test of my resilience and ability to navigate life's complexities. Despite the ongoing struggle, a part of me held on to the hope that I'd find a way through, though the path forward remained shrouded in uncertainty. As the weight of indecision continued to bear down on me, I found myself contemplating drastic measures I'd never thought I'd consider. With my financial situation feeling increasingly precarious, I began exploring the idea of dramatically downsizing my lifestyle. The prospect of selling off belongings, relocating to a more affordable area, or even leaving the city altogether crossed my mind. Could this be the radical shift I needed to regain control and alleviate some of the financial burdens? Another option that loomed large was entering the real estate market, despite my fears. Buying a small apartment might provide the stability and long-term investment I craved, but it was a daunting commitment. The thought of locking away a significant portion of my inheritance in property was terrifying. What if the market crashed? What if unexpected repairs drained my finances further? These drastic measures were not without their own set of fears and doubts. The social stigma of downsizing my life was unsettling. Would I be seen as someone who couldn't handle a windfall responsibly? And what about the emotional toll? Moving away from the life I'd built, the relationships I'd nurtured, felt like tearing away a part of my identity. Moreover, the fear of isolation loomed large. If I took the leap into property ownership, would I be tying myself down to something that might feel like a gilded cage? Each option felt like exchanging one set of problems for another, and the potential for long-term consequences was enormous. I felt torn between taking decisive action and the paralyzing fear of what those decisions might mean for my future. Would these measures lead to freedom and peace of mind, or would they spiral into unforeseen complications? As I stood at this crossroads, uncertainty gnawed at me, and I was left questioning whether any path could lead to the balance and stability I so desperately sought. After months of wrestling with the unexpected burden of this inheritance, I've come to realize that I'm standing at a crossroads of significant life decisions. The journey has been fraught with anxiety, indecision, and unexpected challenges, leaving me emotionally drained and mentally exhausted. I've tried to educate myself, sought professional guidance, and even considered drastic lifestyle changes, yet I still feel like I'm adrift, unable to find solid ground. What I need now is a fresh perspective or a guiding hand to help me navigate this labyrinth of financial uncertainty. Have any of you faced a similar situation? How did you manage the overwhelming responsibility that comes with a windfall? I'm especially curious about strategies for investing wisely or even handling the emotional burden that accompanies such a significant change. I'm reaching out in the hopes that someone might share an experience or piece of advice that could illuminate a path I haven't yet considered. Even if there isn't a perfect solution, knowing that I'm not alone in this struggle would bring some comfort. Alternatively, if this post simply serves as a way for me to vent, then so be it. Sometimes just putting these thoughts into words can be cathartic. Thank you for reading my story. I hope to hear from those who have walked this path before, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find a way to turn this daunting blessing into the opportunity it was meant to be. I'm a 32-year-old inheriting money, struggling with investment decisions, and facing unexpected challenges, seeking advice on managing this windfall responsibly and navigating financial uncertainty.